spoilers? Oh, lots and lots of spoilers. The prize. Oh, that sweet, sweet prize. Sure, you gotta behead a lot of people to get it, but when you're done, it is so, so worth it. There can be only one, or, well, two, because we are Max and Mike, and we talk about movies. Over there, hefting steel that will slice, dice, and make julienne fries, whatever those are, is Kurgan Max Levine.
Holy ground, Highlander.
And me, with my slithering snake of a sword darting from tree to tree, is the immoral, immortal Mike Luce. Together, we can be only one! Do not dispute us! Right. We're at the end of our current series, Leave 'em Wanting More, and we're ending with the movie that kinda spurred us on to do the whole series in the first place. Highlander 2, The Quickening. Haven't seen it? Don't worry, you won't. We've seen to that. But now, let's see to this, won't we? Oh yes, precious, we will.
Do I have to be here for this?
We're here. We're enough. Sorry about that. Thing on my throat.
Oh, God, a hairball. Oh, jeez.
It's my friend. It's my precious.
Bad, Mike. Bad. Look at what you did. Look.
People are going to tune out right now.
You're assuming they tuned in the first place, but sure.
I know. High five, nice people. Anyway, before we get started any further, we've been talking about a little thing we've done called a call-in show. We're still working out the kinks, or the kinks. I'm sorry, the technical aspects of it. Well, it would take how it's going to work. But we've had some more suggestions. Right now, we have had suggestions such as talking about a classic film that, is considered very top of the list, many lists, something like Citizen Kane.
Yeah.
It's been suggested we might try something like the Rocky Horror Picture Show. We had, what did Cheese Boy say? I forget. Oh, yes, he said Rogue Warfare 3. And hey, another shout out to our listener, Vince, who actually sought it out and watched Rogue Warfare 3.
Vince, who threw himself on the cinematic grenade to protect us. He watched it, so we don't have to. Vince, you pour one out for Vince.
So that was a possibility. And we got a new one this week.
By the way, we hope Vince is recovering well.
I can't see my eyes. That's not at all what Finn sounds like. So we got another suggestion this week, and it's a very interesting suggestion. Unfortunately, it would actually make a lot of sense. So we might do a call-in show based on people's experience with a little film called The Room.
Oh, hi, miserable experience of cinema. How is it going, huh?
Maybe together we can all heal. I don't know.
It is a remarkable phenomenon. It'd probably be pretty interesting to talk about.
Yeah. Phenomenon is in fact what it is. Yeah. The last idea, which was mine, which was we could also possibly do a show about films that we've seen many, many times, not our favorite, not even a guilty pleasure, just if it's on, we won't turn it off, and we'll probably stop what we're doing and sitting there and talk about it or watch it.
Can't always explain why, but there are movies we've seen 10, 15 times just because it's easier than changing the channel. I don't know.
Even if we own it.
Yeah.
We don't go and get the disc so we can avoid the commercials. No. Nope. It's on whatever station it is, the one in Chicago, whatever. We're going to sit and watch that stupid movie. That's an idea. So if you have any thoughts, please contact us. We'll go over that again at the end of the show, although you probably already know how. But, tonight, I think we have I don't say this all the time, but I think we have a really good show. We have a couple of special guests. We have Christopher Lambert and Sean Connery, which was really hard because he's dead. And Lambert, of course, because he's French. And we're going to have stupid pet tricks. Bumpy is going to play some Frisbee.
Dave, you're a wild man, Dave. I got to say, you're a fresh kick.
Yeah, so is our show. Right between the eyes. But
I bet
Highlander
there are
2,
some trivial things about Highlander 2.
And I won't just say the entire film. But, trivia. The show. Budget. Initially $10 million, ballooning to $34 million. The take, Just guess.
Nope. You keep trying to make me guess. I don't know why, because I have no idea.
Play my game!
All right. $50!
Wow, $5 limit, poker face. $15.6 million.
Ouch. Not even half.
This should have been the end. Oh, but it is not. Dear, no, it is not. No. Sean Connery and Christopher Lambert became such good friends on the set of the first movie that it was only because of Lambert's insistence that Connery came back. And now, I assume they are no longer friends.
I assume they're not even speaking.
Yeah. But Connery was no fool. He made a cool $1 million for a week's work on the first movie and a cool $3.5 million for 9 days' work on this one. So, yeah. The original choice for Highlander, Kurt Russell. But
that would have been a different movie.
Yeah. Well, now that's for the first film, and it's like it would have been a different movie, but we'll talk a little bit about the original film. But Goldie Hawn, not his wife, I don't know what they are, but they've been together forever, convinced him otherwise, and he went on to do a little film called Big Trouble in Little China instead.
Well done, Goldie. Kurt. Good job, Goldie.
You know, Jungle Boy can be taught. So, a quote from the evil villain portrayer, Michael Ironside, regarding his role in this film, which might explain a lot.
Yeah.
This is a direct quote. Yeah, listen, I hated that script. We all did. Me, Sean, Chris, we were all in it for the money on this one. I mean, it read as if it had been written by a 13-year-old boy, but I have never played a barbarian swordsman before, and this was my first big evil mastermind type. I figured if I was going to do this stupid movie, I might as well have fun and go as far over the top as I possibly could. All that eye-rolling and foaming at the mouth was me deciding that if I was going to be in a piece of beep like that movie, I was going to be the most memorable beeping thing in it, and I think I succeeded. End quote.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah. Christopher Lambert tried to duck out of this film because of the script as well, but had already signed on the dotted line. Clancy Brown was smart enough to say no from the beginning. Yeah. Even the director didn't like this film. He left 15 minutes into the premiere. Only due to contractual obligations was he unable to change his credit to read Alan Smithy.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. The remaining sequels, and there are 3 of them, and the TV show would basically pretend that this movie never existed. Most of its premise and sequences were just ignored. The third film, the one after this one, is commonly nicknamed Highlander 3: The Apology. And sadly, it's not all that good of an apology. There's coordinates given in this movie about a very special place, and that allows Connor and Louise, we'll get to them, to quote-unquote get above the shield. They are actually in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, just east of Virginia Beach. So,
well, yeah, sure.
Good luck climbing the Atlantic Ocean. The film was made entirely in Argentina after the government had entered a period of high corruption. This would cause a lot of issues with financing, and those that issued bonds for the making of the film grabbing overall control late into the project, which is what the director blames the badness on. But, there's plenty of blame to be spread around. Spoiler. Initially, Lambert refused to use fake swords in combat, even though the metal ones weighed close to 20 pounds.
Eesh.
After an accident that nearly sheared off his finger and chipped one of Michael Ironside's teeth, he made the switch. Best part about this, Christopher Lambert, terrible eyesight.
Yeah.
And I can confirm this because I've met the man. Well, met. Before filming the first movie, and even after he had signed the contract, unbeknownst to the production company, Christopher Lambert didn't speak a word of English.
Oops.
Yep. He went into a crash course for 6 weeks or months or whatever, and that's why he can now speak English. More or less. That Overripe Fruit Movie website gives this movie a rare, full 0% rating.
Wow, that's incredibly rare. There aren't a lot of those.
No, and so much less. But Max, do you have any little tidbits?
I do want to point out that one of the main reasons the script was violently rewritten against the express wishes of the director, because the insurance company that was putting up the bond basically took over production, and because of the way the contract was set up, they rewrote the script. They brought in their own people. they took out certain elements we'll talk about and shoehorned in others. And it was and everyone on the shoot, as Mike said, everyone hated it, including the audience. And the director did try to put out a director's cut, which is kind of what we saw.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
Yeah, that's pretty. I think that's just about it.
Yeah, I saw it opening.
Oh yes, I'm sorry.
Hmm?
I do want to point out at one point when they're breaking into Shield the Shield Corporation. It's really
Hail Hydra.
Yep. I know this was made in 91, which is before any of the. We knew Shield from the comic books, but
right.
They talk about the Shield Corporation. It's really hard to separate. I keep expecting Nick Fury to wander in, but
I wish
when they break into this prison at one point, they run into a doctor whose name is in the credits the Doctor, and he is played by comedian Jeff Altman. And I just want to say, Jeff, I'm so sorry. Because Jeff Altman was actually not a bad stand-up comic in his day, and he was reduced to doing a bunch of annoying bit parts on TV. And unfortunately, the thing that destroyed his career back in, I think, 1980, he was the Jeff in Pink Lady and Jeff. Yeah, yep.
Wow, that's a deeper.
That was supposed to make his career, and it really almost completely destroyed it. Yeah, Pink Lady and Jeff. I think we've talked about that before.
We've mentioned it. There's not much to talk about, really.
Can I bring it up a little? Just quickly.
Like yesterday's lunch?
Yeah. It was in the 80s, the time of Donnie and Marie and a lot of the musical variety shows, and I think it was CBS or NBC or one of them decided, we want one, and we're going to bring over this adorable pair of Japanese girls, Mi and Kei, who have this group called Pink Lady. And they're huge in Japan, and they're going to be really popular in America, like Donnie and Marie. Small problem, neither Mi nor Kei spoke any English. I mean, less than Christopher Lambert did. And in America, nobody knew who they were, so they brought in, we'll bring in a stand-up comic to sort of be the translator, to be the identifiable. And that was poor Jeff Altman. And the show, I think, barely ran one season. And it is one of the great disasters of TV.
Well, one of the problems is that every time that they would start singing, Mothra would show up, and then, that was a problem.
They couldn't help it. It was really embarrassing.
Pink Lady and Jeff, a step below the Hudson Brothers Razzle Dazzle show.
It really was. But anyway.
Yeah. All right. We have a plot to get through,
do.
Oh boy. Yeah.
Deep breath.
Yeah. All right. It's the year 2024, and Connor MacLeod, the Highlander, no longer immortal and seemingly without the prize he earned in the first film, lives in a dark world with no daylight. Seems the ozone layer finally deteriorated to the point that it was causing worldwide radiation poisoning. It was a plague the likes of which we've never seen, and still don't because that would be too expensive. So MacLeod and some other guy built the Shield, an energy barrier that keeps out the bad radiation and all of the sunlight. So people live, but it's kind of miserable. We won't ask where the food comes from or why there are still animals, things to eat. Where was I?
Who knows?
Right. So it seems that the immortals weren't immortals after all. They were really from the distant past and were exiled here because of a failed coup. Connor's old and sad. The world is old and sad. But Michael Ironside, playing General Katana, is keeping an eye on his rival in the future, the Highlander, and simply cannot wait for him to just die already. So he sends some goons to finish him off, and lo and behold, their presence in the future... Thinking of Criswell. Yeah. Their presence in the future...
But that's all in the past now.
Causes the whole immortal thing to reverse itself. MacLeod kills the henchmen, absorbs their life essences, and becomes young again and, more or less, remembers all the stuff he seemingly forgot in the first movie. Meanwhile, an anti-shield group called Cobalt, Hail Hydra, has been gathering information that shows that the shield is no longer necessary. The ozone layer has repaired itself. But Evil Corp simply won't hear any of this, as they will no longer make money, tie damsels to railroad tracks, or twist their mustaches if the shield is turned off.
You forgot to close out orphanages.
That too. When Connor meets Louise, leader of Cobalt, it's a love story made in about 10 seconds.
Yeah, in a filthy alley.
You're interrupting.
Sorry.
Together, I got to get through this.
Yeah,
There's still another paragraph. That's how the whole movie felt. Together, they fight to take down Evil Corp and the Shield with the help of the suddenly reappearing, resurrecting Ramirez. Seems if you call your buddy's name, even if dead, they can come back and have a really long, unnecessary suit-fitting scene and then fly to your aid in a propeller plane that couldn't possibly... Sorry. Eventually, General Katana and Connor meet in a clash of traditional steel. And then they do it again. And finally, one more time until Connor manages to cut off Katana's head, which will end his life forever and make McCloud the Highlander or immortal or something again. And he steps into the energy beam and deactivates the shield, and everyone's happy. The end. The lowdown. All right, so Max.
Yeah.
I know you're dying to get to this part.
Yeah.
So, if you go to watch Highlander 2, The Quickening, and we'll repeat the joke right now, if it's The Quickening,
why is it so slow?
You will see something called the Renegade version, or the director's cut.
Yes, this is actually starring Fernando Lamas.
I wish. So when this movie came out, the Immortals, not Highlanders, and I don't know why anybody calls him the Highlander in the film except Ramirez, because that's a Scottish term, and it was only because he was supposedly born in Scotland. We saw that in the first film. Why the people in the past from who knows where call him the Highlander, I don't know.
Oh, right, the people from the past, right.
When you first went to see this film, when it came out, opening night, because we really liked the original film.
We did. I still do.
There is a point early on in the film where you're suddenly transported to this place and you don't know where it is, and we're all a little confused, and there is Ramirez and there is the Highlander Connor McCloud with a whole bunch of other guys in this strange, somewhat alien location.
Looks kind of like Dune.
Yeah, which itself is not a good thing. And one of the characters, I think it's actually Ramirez, says, "Free men of the planet." And then what he actually says in the original film is, "Free men of the planet Zeist."
Yep.
And they dub in "Hear Me" instead of Zeist in this version. Because originally in this film, Ramirez and all the other immortals, including McCloud, the Kurgan, blah, 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 were not from the distant past, which itself doesn't make any sense. They were from planet Zeist.
Yeah, I'm not saying it was aliens. But it was aliens.
At that point in the film, which is only about 5 minutes or 10 minutes into the film, and I hear Planet Zeist, I attempted to leave the theater. But my friends would not let me. They said, no, let's stay and make fun of it.
We paid money for this. We're going to see it. Maybe it gets better.
Spoiler, it doesn't. So suddenly they're basically saying, that stuff we saw in history, because the original film, if you haven't seen it, is actually, it has its cheese factor, but it's actually a pretty fun, complete little film that has a very simple premise, which is, during history, people are born immortal, and the idea is that eventually they will all come together into something called the Quickening, and at that point, whoever's left will battle. The person who wins will gain a prize, which, to be fair, they don't even know what it is. That's it. That's the entire premise. There's no witches. There's no dragons. It's just literally some people live forever. Oops.
Sorry. And the only way an immortal can be killed is to have their head cut off. Which is why they're all big swordsmen. And, guns just sort of annoy them. And, of course, the prize is a lifetime supply of Sanka.
Thank you. You wanted me to stop doing it. Whatever. Yeah.
It's funny when I do it.
And apparently we find out at the end of the film that the prize is that the winner, can know the thoughts of anybody or everybody on the planet, but they will now also be able to finally live their lives as a mortal person, grow old, and die.
Also have children.
Yeah, which, to be fair, after 400 or 500 years, if you're lucky, i.e. Connor McCloud, you probably are like, I could stand to just stop. Ramirez is apparently over 2,000 years old, so yeah.
Yeah, now, but remember all that from the first movie? Forget it. It has nothing to do with this. Nope, it was all wrong. It's all, time travelers, apparently, who are not immortal in the past or on planet Zeist. Because, they edit it. They apparently thought, no, aliens that's dumb. Time travel makes much more sense.
Yeah.
But when they're in their time or on their planet, they're not immortal. But then they come to the present or our planet, and they are immortal, but all they want to do is go home where they won't be immortal.
But that's okay, because they forgot all of that when they were exiled in the first film. So, yeah, we get to start this film watching... Christopher Lambert fall asleep.
Yeah, Christopher Lambert wearing some of the least convincing aging makeup and doing the worst old man impression, because apparently he thinks to do an old man, you just have to wheeze.
And my favorite part is that he went to opera.
Yes.
Not any particular opera, he just went to
no, excuse
opera.
me. We know what opera.
No.
We don't know the opera house.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, the theater is just labeled. Yeah, it's the same with there's opera and then there's bar. I remember
it's like when this whole pandemic is over, I'm hoping Max and I can go to movie.
Yeah, possibly we'll even eat at restaurant.
Yeah, food.
Yeah.
Eats. But in the most prescient moment of the film, we start off the entire epic adventure watching Christopher Lambert go to sleep.
Yeah, he basically represents the audience in this. And yes, the opera he's watching is, of course, Götterdämmerung.
And even before they showed us the bit of the sheet music to tell us what it was, I guess maybe it was the program. That's, to be fair, it was the program. I'm sitting there going, boy, that's Wagner-esque if ever I heard it.
And you were right.
I'll have to say, the little transitions of him watching the opera, watching Götterdämmerung, that's not Siegfried, though. Who is the...
No, it is. It's Siegfried. Well, Brunhilde is doing most of the singing, but Siegfried is the one who's laid out on the pyre.
And he's got nice legs, I gotta say. Anyway,
okay.
We're watching this opera, and then it transitions to either the past or Planet Zeist, whichever version you saw. I gotta admit, that tiny little bit, is the only thing reminiscent of the original film.
Yeah, the cinematography there is actually pretty decent, the way they cut back and forth.
Yeah, that moment.
Yeah.
After that, the moment passes like a kidney stone, and we're left with the rest of the film. But yeah, so all really they did is there's a couple of instances in the film where they literally dub over the word Zeist, and we don't know anything about Zeist. That's what I was worried, because quite honestly, I felt cheated that I wasn't going to see the original cut of this film, because for one thing, there was Zeist, and for another thing, this cut adds 19 additional minutes of footage.
Also, am I crazy? I remember some detail from this movie where they had special weapons that were designed to fight the immortals. Like they were weapons that were specifically designed to cut people's heads off at a distance.
I don't remember.
I've thought so,
seen
but
this
maybe
once.
maybe I'm confusing it with another bad movie.
And Max and I love bad movies. I've only seen this once. I saw it when it came out, and I was like, that's it, I'm done. And then, like the complete idiot that I am, I went and saw Highlander 3, but we'll not get into that tonight.
I saw 3, I saw 4. Apparently there's a 5. I don't think I knew that.
I didn't.
Yeah, Mike told me there was a 5. And I watched a good chunk of the series. I kind of like the TV series.
Well, that was his son, Duncan? Is that
Well, he was a clansman. He was another MacLeod, but I don't know if they were that closely related. But they do meet a couple of times.
Lambert didn't want to do the show. Lambert didn't want to do the show.
Yeah.
And so they had Duncan, and then later on, apparently, he's like, well, okay, I'll show up. So he does show up in the show.
Yeah. And in one of the movies.
So we start off, there's an opera, and it's dark, because quite honestly, it's easier to shoot at nighttime when in a giant set. And I had to look this up, because initially I'm looking at these sets going, wait, were the original Batman sets just hanging around gathering moth? Because that's what it looks like. It looks like Gotham City from the 89 Batman film, but since it was shot in Argentina...
I thought they were trying to look like Blade Runner. Everything dark, everything kind of wet.
Well, and here's the weirdest part. Every single vehicle in this film is supposed to be taking place in 2024, even though it's shot in 91. Even in 91, every vehicle in this film is at least 25 years old, if not older. And it's like, I get it. So because the ozone layer's gone, you can't grow cars anymore. So.
Or like when Ramirez is flying from London, he's in a propeller plane.
Yeah. But it still has a little TV with the little safety film, which apparently you can access anytime during the flight, because he's well over the Atlantic at that point.
I got to say, that was the one thing I liked. I love the safety film, because it's not just like, the oxygen mask will drop down. It's like the plane is crashing on the film, and everyone's screaming, and the masks are flailing about, and you see the plane ram into the side of a mountain. I'm going, okay, that would convince me to pay attention to the safety film.
Well, also, did you notice it wasn't even the mask? It was literally a bag.
Yes, you put a bag over your head.
Yeah.
The little things like that, or at one point we see an ad for the TV show Psychic Cook.
Yeah.
And I'm going, did we switch over to RoboCop? Because this looks like one of those, I'd buy that for $1 fake TV shows.
Yeah, which was from a film called Death Row Game Show. Which,
oh, okay.
That's where that comes from.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Or no, I'm sorry, that comes from Running Man. There was another, actually there was a show, a movie called Death Row Game Show that was basically taking that little nice 10-second skit and making it an entire film.
Oh.
But you wouldn't have seen it, people out there, and be happy.
Also, there are TVs in people's cars, despite the fact they're still being manually driven, which we know personally that's a really dumb idea.
Yeah, but it's the future, so TV's everywhere, I guess. But that's okay, because in the future, there's literally only about 5 people, so it's fine.
Yeah.
Until they bring people from the future, because... I mean, literally, so General Katana, played by Michael Ironside, his whole thing is, wait, when they had that coup, I should have killed them, but the stupid judges made me put them into exile on Earth in the future / Zeist.
Which made them immortal. What?
Why isn't he dead yet? I can't stand him not being dead yet. I'm going to send Porcupine Bob and Porcupine Steve into the
Porcupine
future.
Boys. Yeah, 2 guys with quills for hair.
I'm a terrible person.
Yeah, exactly. They look like the Wheelers out of Return to Oz. And, oh, Lord, and they have the silliest fight. Every time they're fighting McCloud, they're the worst assassins ever. He's like 70, 80 years old. Every time he fell, all I could think is, my hip! My other hip!
Yeah, and it's at that point that I just wrote down, this feels like a movie made by a 10-year-old bashing his action figures together.
Yeah, even the toys they're using to fly look ridiculous. And
well, they had to
whole sequence is just so dumb.
They actually had to redesign those little things they were flying on, because as they made this film, they'd already started making Back to the Future 2, and they had to make them look less skateboardy. Yeah, so Michael Ironside's character, General Katana, which happens to also be the kind of sword that Connor McLeod uses, so whatever.
Mirez gave him, yeah.
Yeah, and he's just like, grr, he's not dead yet, even though he's old and unhappy and blah, blah, blah. I can't wait 5 more minutes, and he sends his minions,
I do have to say this. Michael Ironside looks like he's having a blast.
As much as he can.
As much as he can. Yeah. He is the only one in this movie who is just, it's like he said in the quote, I am going to just go over the top. I'm going to throw myself into this. And he really does. He's not Clancy Brown. He really wants to be. Because Clancy Brown, when he threw himself into it, was both funny and terrifying.
Yeah.
And intimidating. And I'm sorry, Michael Ironside can be really intimidating. He is a really cool action actor. And he's got the voice and the stone face. And in this, he comes right up to the edge of being silly.
Oh, I'd say he pirouettes and jetés off the cliff, but...
I don't know. I think he stays on this side of the line, even though he is given such unbelievably stupid dialogue.
And plot and
everything else.
And I have to say one thing to Max that'll probably get a groan, and that is the phrase, the train scene.
Oh, Lord.
So he shows up, and he really is trying to do his best Kurgan. He's no Kurgan. And apparently Clancy Brown got into trouble because he was a little too Kurgan on the set, and people were actually afraid of him.
Well, it doesn't help, it doesn't hurt that Clancy Brown is, I think, 11'4", and he's built like a monster. He's huge, and he's very physically imposing.
And Clancy Brown is awesome.
Yeah.
Like, if you have Clancy Brown in your film, it just got better.
Yeah.
Even if it's just his voice, because he does a lot of game stuff, and he also shows up on Clone Wars, and I think...
does a lot of voice
Rebels.
work.
Yeah, Clancy Brown's awesome.
You rule, Clancy.
And we don't have Clancy Brown.
No.
And there's a scene where General Katana first shows up because apparently to go to the future, you just fall through whatever and you land in something. In this case, it's a subway train. And then he decides to just, frighten and the people on the subway train until he comes to this little kid, and I swear the kid is trying not to laugh.
Yeah.
And he holds the kid up and he's like, "Oh, you're a little one. Bet you always wanted to drive one of these." And the kid's like, "Uh-huh." He's like, "Yeah, me too." And so he drives the train, knocking or actually kills the conductor. And he moves the knob up to the point where the train is supposedly, I don't care if it's even supposed to be kilometers, but it looks like it's miles. He's running the train over 400 miles an hour.
Yeah. And everyone is slamming into the back because I don't think they know how G-forces work.
No. I love that one guy with the really bad makeup who pops up and his eyes are bulging out.
Yeah.
And you're just like, okay, whatever. And then he crashes through a wall with the train, although really not all that hard. And then he comes out and says something funny, I guess. I don't know.
Last stop.
For me, I just said the whole scene on the train is just the movie raising its middle finger to the audience.
Yeah, it really is a big screw you to the audience. It just is.
Yeah.
We have to talk about Sean.
I gotta say, I didn't realize at first how much he made off the first film, never mind this film.
Yeah.
So my feeling is that the whole point is when we're looking at Sean, the reason he's being as professional as he is if you look in his eyes really closely, it's hard to see because it's not a great print, but if you look really closely, you can see these little dollar signs spinning around.
Excuse me, he's Scottish. You were seeing the little pound sterling signs, the little L's.
Right, of course. Yes.
But yeah, and I will give Sean Connery credit. Yes, he's getting a lot of money, but he really is making an effort. He's not just phoning it in.
Nope.
It's like he's in another movie. Yeah. Because everything else in this movie is so damn serious and grim. The first movie had some humor. It wasn't just the Kargan. There was that scene I always liked. I think it's the 18th century where Connor's drunk off his mind and getting in a duel with this guy. And the guy keeps beating him. He keeps stabbing him and he falls down. He goes, "Ha, I've won." And Connor, who is immortal, gets back up and says, "Hang on, let's keep." And after the fourth or fifth time, he's like, "All right, I apologize for calling your wife a hippo," or whatever it was. And the guy's like, "Okay." But there's some humor in there. This movie is just airless and joyless. Connery, as I say, Ironside tries to be over the top, but it's so forced.
Yeah.
And Connery is really trying, but it doesn't fit the rest of the movie. His whole first, 10 minutes are, and honestly, I think this would have been a more fun movie. Forget McLeod. Let's just watch the adventures of Ramirez in the 21st century.
Well, except that we really are treated, it's a treat, to literally 10 minutes of watching Sean Connery as Ramirez get a suit.
Yeah, he goes into whatever the Scottish equivalent of Savile Row is.
Except, of course, the guy there's not Scottish.
No,
he's British.
They're all English. He drops into the middle of a Shakespeare festival where they're all English.
What are they doing?
They're doing Hamlet, which...
Yeah, they're not doing the Scottish play, to be fair, but still.
To be fair. And again, he wouldn't have known Shakespeare. Not even personally. He died. He was killed before that. But, yeah, he just sort of screws around with it. And then he decides he needs a suit of clothes. And I still he goes into this shop and he hands them his earring as payment. And the guy, apparently a clothier is an expert at identifying genuine pearl jewelry.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I don't care how big that pearl was. It wasn't worth an entire bespoke suit.
No, because they have to make it that day.
Yeah.
Like while he waits.
And for
quite
some
honestly,
sorry.
And drinks scotch and has a nice cigar. That's the point where I think Sean is just like, I'm fine with this film. He's just sitting there smoking and drinking. I'm getting paid $10,000 just to smoke and drink this scotch.
I'm betting it was real scotch, too. I'm betting it's not like they usually do in the movies where it's iced tea or something. And why? Can you figure this? While they're dressing him, the background music is the William Tell Overture.
Because it's free.
Why? That's it, because it's public domain?
Yes, that's my answer. I think the best way to put this is Sean Connery does not disgrace himself. In a film where other people definitely do, he comes in, he is Sean Connery, and he starts as Sean Connery, he middles as Sean Connery, and he leaves as Sean Connery. The scene where he sacrifices himself
for some reason, which he doesn't need to do because he's actually got plenty of time to get to the door before the big spinning fan that doesn't cover the entire room. They could have just pressed up against the walls and it would have been fine, but he uses his magic powers that he suddenly has to telekinetically hold it off and then dies.
And he basically diminishes and goes west and remains Sean Connery.
Yes, that's pretty much it. Oh, and I would also like to talk about the love interest. Now,
I'm sorry, the what?
Yeah, did you know there was a love interest in this movie? You may have blinked and missed the connection.
Oh, I thought there was something in my eye.
Yeah, no.
Louise.
Yeah. Now, in the first movie, we have a couple of romantic interests for MacLeod. His wife, Heather, from the 16th century.
It was so charming.
It was adorable and believable, and she seemed like a real person.
Yeah.
And then in the 20th century, he meets, what's her name? Brenda.
Brenda.
And who has a cameo in a death scene where they obviously couldn't get the actress, so they covered her face with bandages and really bad makeup that's supposed to look like burn scar.
Oh, and I couldn't remember who the actress was, and it didn't matter. As soon as they saw her face, it's like, oh, you couldn't get her, huh?
Yeah. She very sensibly stayed away from this. She wasn't that interesting a character either. She doesn't get to do much. Mostly what she does is get taken hostage. But she had some personality.
Do you mean Brenda or Louise?
Brenda.
Okay.
She had some. She was, she was a metallurgist. She actually had a sort of part in the plot. She actually figures out there's something strange about MacLeod, not because it's dumped in her lap, but from evidence he leaves behind.
Well, I think she works in the forensics department of the cops.
And when she finds one of the guys he's beheaded, she's analyzing the bits of metal in his neck. She's competent. Louise is apparently an eco-terrorist who wants to destroy the shield. We don't know exactly why. There's something doesn't add up. Okay. And when she finds out that the shield is a fraud and that the radiation levels above it are normal, she's stunned. It's not like, oh, I suspected this or this is why we're doing it. It's like, oh, this can't be right.
Yeah. And the best part is that she breaks into this complex at a dam, I guess.
Yeah.
And they have hired the worst guards ever hired in a movie because it is so well lit, it might as well be noon, and they are sliding in on this rope nearly over the guards, and they're going to drop into this pool, and the guards don't hear anything, and they don't see anything.
The stormtroopers from Star Wars end up looking like the Secret Service compared to these guys.
It's like the two guards in Holy Grail. It really is.
Yes,
even if they see anything, they just smile.
Yeah, I was waiting for one of them when they start breaking in to go, now wait, you're not to enter the room unless...
Oh! Yeah. I can only give the movie this tiny bit of credit. When they get into the complex and they're breaking into the system, somebody doesn't actually say, I'm in. That is the tiniest bit of praise I can give that sequence.
She finds MacLeod, because apparently MacLeod is famous in this world because he was the guy who designed the shield or helped design the shield.
Sort of?
Yeah, and she's like, hey, you got to listen to me and I'm going to get in your car and stuff.
Get out of my car.
No.
Okay.
Damn, I'm helpless before your logic. Then he gets in the big fight with the Porcupine brothers. He gets all quickened back, and suddenly he's turned back into Christopher Lambert. And she's like, dude, you're totally hot. Let's have sex in this filthy alley.
Yeah.
And they do.
And they literally are, they press themselves together like two hams. And and they have, you can actually see that there's a light comes on that says, romance. Yeah. Romance.
But there's nothing. The music is swelling and triumphant. And they're next to a garbage can, and it's just, it could not be less appealing.
Yeah, it's just, I have never seen two people shoved together harder. You could actually hear the smack of their limbs. It was that bad.
And now it's like, oh, she's not like, oh my God, what have I done? I don't do things like that. I just had alley sex with a guy I met 2 minutes ago. It's like, oh no, we're in love now. Okay.
Who used to be old 10 seconds ago was really old. He got hit by lightning and now he's young, and I have no idea why that happened. No. But yeah, I'd do that. I'd hit that. Yeah, so, and then she becomes incompetent because for the rest of the film she just stands there and, like, tosses her hair.
Yeah, there's one really serious continuity problem.
Really?
One that's really noticeable. First, McCloud has a friend who's working at S.H.I.E.L.D. He's an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., apparently. I'm sorry, he's an employee of S.H.I.E.L.D. The S.H.I.E.L.D. corporate. Damn it! Yeah, that does make McCloud and Ramirez Hydra, basically. But he was like McCloud's...
And if you cut off one head... Oh, wait, no, that's how it works. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, so he was the guy who helped design it, and he gets thrown in prison because corporate evil guy doesn't like him. For some, we don't care.
Well, he's only left alive for one reason.
Yeah. No.
So he can give Connor the rest of the coordinates.
Right, and then he dies.
This magic place. And then he dies.
But Ramirez and McCloud come up with this brilliant way to break into the prison, which is to drive a car directly into the security area and let everybody shoot them so they think they're dead. And, of course, the place has its own on-site morgue, and they break out that way. However, what's her name? Louise, thank you. I can't remember. Is hiding in the trunk of the car. That the guards have just fired with high-impact machine gun bullets. They have literally the entire car is shut up, but she's fine because apparently the trunk is bulletproof.
Well, Max, as you know, it was a 1960s era Chevy Impala, which were made out of cast iron. So,
all right, that would do it. But that's just good Lord.
Whatever.
And apparently, they have to go up. They have to turn off the shield, but that apparently is not as simple as just hitting an off switch. For some reason, I didn't understand this. The bad guy says, it would take all the energy in the world to shut off the shield.
Well, it gets dumber because, as you remember, at one point Ramirez says it's going to take the power of the two of you to turn it off. We get to the scene where he's finally killed General Katana, who honestly looks like he just gives up. He's like, okay, fine, whatever, just cut my head off. We've done this 3 times. I'm done.
Yeah.
And then Connor goes over to this giant beam, because there's only one, this giant beam going into the sky that causes the shield. And you hear Ramirez say one more time, it'll take the power of the two of you. Then Connor steps alone into the beam and stops the stupid shield.
Yep, and does not get vaporized.
No, and it doesn't take the power of the two of them. It is once again the film giving us the middle finger.
Yeah.
So, there's still some more points, but let's get to our little questions because they're important.
Oh, they are.
I don't know if I can ask the first one with a straight face. Does the sequel feel like a natural continuation of the original movie's story?
Well, as we've talked about, does it appear organically? I think yes, in the way that waste material organically appears out of the human body. So this sequel was not so much made as pooped out.
Defecated.
This movie, I think of all of the ones we've seen, this is the sequel that really just gives a big middle finger to the previous movie. It says, all the stuff in there, you were wrong. It was wrong. Sorry. It's aliens. It's not odd mysticism. The fact that it's aliens or time travel, by the way, that doesn't explain anything about why holy ground makes any difference. That's one of the rules: is the immortals cannot fight on holy ground. Now, when it's unexplained mysticism, okay. Yeah. When it's this, it just makes even less sense.
Well, also, they're in the past, like, with all this technology because, So literally, all they did was the director came in, took the original film, and everywhere the word Zeist appeared in the soundtrack, he taped the word the past instead. Yeah. And you could almost see the Scotch tape, like Bruce Lee's face in Game of Death.
There is even the line when McCloud's watching the opera, and you hear the voice, remember, and you can hear, we remember that the word remember back on planet Zeist.
Yeah.
But in this, it's just remember blank, and you can hear the blank. You can hear the cut.
And then after that, they say, remember the rebellion, at which points the entire audience as a one said together, no.
We, in fact, do not remember, nor do we care.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Max. There is literally nothing that links the first film and this film except for Christopher Lambert and Sean Connery, and that's it. And the title, I suppose.
Yeah.
But when your only connection is a title, we have a problem.
Yeah.
And I remember being angry. I was angry. This is one of the first films I ever went to, and I was angry. And it's like, you took something that I really liked. It is not a grade A film, Highlander. It's got its problems, but it's fun. It's very compact, and it's complete. It doesn't over-explain things. It doesn't need to. And quite honestly, it ends. There doesn't need to be any more. Because there can be only, one. Yeah,
it's very self-contained. It's oddly enough like the first Star Wars movie, the first real Star Wars movie.
Right.
It did not need to be, as we've asked, is this a sequel or is this a franchise? This became a franchise, and it was not planned. I don't believe it was planned to be a franchise, but it became, my God, 5 movies, a TV show, 2 TV shows, there was a spin-off and a cartoon.
Ah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's the kind of franchise that sells, meals to small children with really crappy plastic toys in it. But yeah. And of course, the other question, very, very important. Does the sequel surpass the original, and does it need to?
We've just explained, but that
no.
It doesn't, and it was an unnecessary sequel. So no, it doesn't need to surpass it. It would be nice if it at least equaled it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't come close.
Yeah.
And
I do have a sort of follow-up question. Yeah? If a sequel had to be made, and it didn't, what kind of story would you have told in place of this?
I don't know, because I don't think it needed it, because at the end, it's like, oh, there are no more immortals. The story's over. Mm-hmm. You would have to. The only way to do it would have been to change something like, oh, no, there were immortals over there. You just didn't look over there.
You're still here?
Or it's over.
Go home.
Or maybe McLeod, as an older man, sees a new generation. A whole bunch of new immortals show up.
Sure. And I actually would have been fine with that. Maybe that's what happens is this is a contest that runs every 2,000 years and then starts again.
Yeah. Then he's there to see the restart. Maybe he wants to break the cycle because it's never-ending violence.
Well, except the thing is that there's also apparently a bunch of backstory for the Kurgan, which, quite honestly, we don't need because we can guess. Apparently, he shows up, and he's alongside people like Attila the Hun and Chiang Kai-shek and all that stuff. Is that the one? No. Who's the... No, not him.
Genghis Khan?
Genghis Khan, yep.
Big difference.
Yeah, and the Kurgan was like, wherever there's lots of conquesting and warring, that's where I am. And Clancy Brown embodies that so well that you don't need it. But I could totally see it be like, hey, I've got the prize. They're doing it again. Maybe I'll try and seek some of these people out and mentor them so we don't have the same outcome we did before. That could have been cool.
Yeah, sure. Or it turns out this is being done over and over again for an ultimate purpose. Maybe it's to create some sort of being who could shepherd the whole world.
Yeah,
or conquer it, or whatever.
Against Planet Zeist.
Against Planet Zeist. That's it. Maybe it's an invasion force of Planet Zeist.
Yeah.
There were a lot of things we could have done, or that's the idea that conflict breeds strength, and they're trying to build the strongest being.
Or Who
knows? There's stuff we could have done. We didn't need to bring in a deteriorated ozone layer, and a weird Blade Runner plot, and time travel or aliens.
Yeah.
And again, while Sean Connery really does do his best, his character gets the most unholy fisting in this movie.
He becomes a Muppet? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, pretty much the movie shoves its hand up him and works him like a puppet, because in the first movie, Ramirez is elegant and suave, and nothing surprises or shocks him. And in this, he's just making bad jokes. Yeah. He's saying, "Hit it, dude."
Yeah.
To McLeod, like, oh, that's going to age well.
And he uses the I can't say the word, the blank head word twice because that's funny. Yeah. I will also say that in the original film, his part was the most WTF of the whole film. It's like, oh, the one Scottish actor in the entire film in Scotland is in fact playing an Egyptian by way of the court of Spain.
Yeah. Well, come on. The Highlander is French.
What's it French for?
I don't. I like my haggis. I am so very Scottish. Am I not?
Oh, I love haggis. And you just sort of. It was Sean Connery in the first film, so you're like, well, that's dumb, but it's Sean Connery, so it's fine.
Yeah.
And he has a great wig. I'll give him that. He has a great wig.
Oh, it looks terrific.
Yeah.
He looks. He always looked. He's the best looking in any of these movies. He's wearing the coolest costumes.
Yep.
They've got him done up. He's got the best sword.
Yep. Even the suit is pretty cool. I was expecting a kilt, but I'm guessing he's a lowlander, so therefore he doesn't get one. Which
Well,
is
he's
fine,
also
that's the way it
Spanish,
goes.
but
Lowlanders wear trews.
Yeah, again, I like the scene in the clothing store where one of the guys keeps trying to dress him in tartan.
Yeah.
And the snooty head of the place keeps walking by and ripping it off him.
Well, it's probably the wrong one.
Honestly, the whole movie could have taken place in the clothing store and it would have been better.
Well, there's some other things, too. But we've talked about various plot problems, of which there are many. I don't know if you could tell. I actually wore headphones to listen to this film because it was easier that way. The entire film is dubbed. Everything is overdubbed. So everyone came back and looped their parts, and it is terrible. The sound is awful, and of course whenever you do that, the inflection is all wrong. Like the people are trying to recreate their performances, and even the best actors, quite honestly, because of just the sound booth being a small space with no echoes and no feeling of the actual location, just gets dulled down. And here it's just awful.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah,
the effects are not so special. There's a couple of shots in particular that are just ugh.
And one of the things about the first movie that was so impressive was the fight choreography.
Yeah.
The sword fighting in the first one is really cool to watch. This is just the same thing over and over again. Well, they use different styles in the first one.
Yeah.
And in this, it's just, I'm going to hit you with a big hunk of metal. Whack, whack.
Oh, yeah? Well, I'm going to hit you with a big hunk of metal. So there, whack, whack.
Ah, you showed me. Ha! And then, you are a worthy adversary.
And then they go away, and then they come back and do the same thing all over again.
Yeah.
Three times. Three
times. And there's nothing distinctive about the three fights. It's not like they're using the environment differently or the style differently. It's just the same thing. It's just like a fist fight with swords.
Yeah. So we have the sound effects, which are, the sound in general, which is bad. The special effects, which are not special. There's some really just dumb lines in this film. At one point, to emote the sadness of having grown up in this dark world that's rainy and moist, Louise says to Connor, "Have you ever seen a blue sky? What was it like?" "I don't know. I'm guessing it's blue." Because it's just like, this is a film that actually dares you not to yell at it.
Yeah, it really encouraged. I mean, he's saying it wasn't just the deepest blue. There were white clouds turning dark. And as he's describing this, she's closing her eyes and like she's in ecstasy. Because he said there was a blue sky and there were white clouds and they would turn gray.
There were trees of green.
Hey, that would have worked. If you got Louis Armstrong, he should have just said, "Here, I'm going to put on Louis Armstrong. He just says it better than I do."
And it's like, oh, it's so sad she's never seen a blue sky. Because you can hear the gum chewing of the scriptwriter. And then there's this whole stupid subplot where they have to, prove that the ozone layer actually fixed itself. So they have to get to this magic point, which, as I pointed out, is actually 800 miles east of Virginia Beach, but is actually a mountain. And apparently there's a point in California, I guess, or in this case, Argentina. I don't know. I was thinking Everest, because that might have made sense, which it still wouldn't. Where they can actually climb No.
Yeah, there's a ladder up the middle of the mountain.
Yeah, and there's a hole in the mountain. Literally a hole. They come out of a hole in the mountain, and they're above the shield. Okay, it's obviously not that tall, because there's not even snow on this mountain. It's bright, it's sunny, it's nice. How is anybody flying a plane?
Yeah.
You would have to be above the shield, because planes have to fly higher than that because buildings are taller than that.
Yeah, no, if you cannot look at this movie with any kind of critical eye because it falls apart instantly.
No. And then the film actually gets daring. At one point, Connor actually says, "Nothing lasts forever," which prompts you to respond, "Except this film."
Yeah.
Because...
Yeah, this film makes me question that.
Yeah. But, hey, we have gone through a lot of things. Are there any last notes before we get to our final wrap up and the surprise?
Yeah.
Someday we'll have a surprise.
So how did he get Ramirez's sword? At the end, he's got the katana.
They don't even explain it. It just shows up.
It's just sort of there. Not to mention the big thing, how does Ramirez show up? He died in the first one, yes, and apparently if you say Sean Connery's name 3 times while looking in a mirror and drinking scotch, he comes back.
Really? You know, when we're done with this, I have something to do.
And and honestly, that part is just so silly, you don't even bother. It's like, we're half an hour into the movie. I can't waste the energy.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's about all I got.
Let's get to
let's get to the shock.
Wrap-up. The roundup. So Max, did you see this when it came out?
I did.
You weren't with us at the audience, weren't you?
I was not. I not.
I think you were in that other place we call Midwest.
No, I think back then this was one in
91.
91. Yeah, that's right. Yep, I saw this in the Midwest.
Lucky you.
Yeah. Yep.
Because what did you think when you saw it?
I remember just sitting there going, "What am I watching? This has nothing to do with the first film."
Yeah.
And it was actually when Sean Connery showed up, I was like, "Okay, no." It wasn't even the Planet Zeiss thing. Although that mostly I was just sitting there with my mouth hanging open, going, "What?" It was Sean Connery. Oh, I see. You want Sean Connery back for the sequel. You're not even going to try to make it make sense.
Beetlejuice.
Yeah, that was it. Connery.
Yeah.
No, I was very disappointed because I did like the first one. I still like the first one.
Yeah, just not a fan.
I mean, I saw the third, and I think I saw the fourth. I think. I honestly don't remember either of them very well, except I think Mario Van Peebles was in the third. The third was like the Sorcerer or something. And, well, I don't think they were very good or very memorable. They were not the spitting in your eye that this movie was.
Yeah.
And I totally get why all of the sequels pretend this movie never happened.
Yeah. So
what about you? You saw you already said you saw it when you came out. You saw it opening night. You wanted to leave.
I did. I was with friends at the time. I remember one of the friends I was with. I don't remember who else was there. And it was 10 minutes in, and they said Planet Zeiss, and I was like, I am out of here. And the friend said, no, stay and make fun of it. Which we did. Mostly my friend did because I didn't want to yell out in the theater. But there was one scene near the end of the film. It was actually during the scene where they break into the prison. And there's all this shooting. And suddenly, inexplicably, to our great benefit, the sound cut out in our theater. And my friend and I started dubbing in the sounds for the guns. So we started going bang, 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 literally bang, bang, not even going, we were going bang, bang, ow, ow. People were laughing. The sound came back on and the audience booed. It was awful. It was interminable. There's one scene in the film where they are trapped just beneath the spitting fan because, of course, there's rooms where they can cut off heads in a prison because that's going to have to happen with a giant fan. And there's a touchpad, and Louise goes over and she's hitting buttons at random because that's going to work. And our friend there just yells out, "Try 333 film," which got the biggest laugh of the whole thing. I don't think I've ever been to an opening night film that people were more than happy for people to talk over. Like it was just that bad. This film has all the tension of a warm muffin, honestly. Yeah. It's just, there's nothing in there. There's one point where Louise literally tries to explain the movie. She's like, wait, so when you're back there, you're not immortal, but you come here and you're immortal until you're blah, blah, blah. And she literally, this 2-minute sentence that she managed to memorize and say, and it's still like middle of the film, and she tries to explain it, and you're like, oh dear gods, yeah, that is what I'm watching.
Yeah.
I think this movie literally hates its audience, just hates us.
Yep.
I wanted to go home then. I wanted to go home at Planet Zeiss. Just awful. If you haven't seen the original Highlander film, again, grain of salt, it is not perfect. There's there's a bit of cheesiness to it, but it's fun. It's a nice little universe that starts, middles, and ends just fine. Does not need anything else.
Yeah. And there's actual Queen music in it, as opposed to in this one, where there's one or two people who are really trying to sound like Queen and not pulling it off.
Yeah, sadly, one of them is Stuart Copeland, who was a police, and would also do other things like the soundtrack to the Spyro the Dragon game franchise. But
oh dear.
Yeah, well, hey, it paid the money. But we're wrapping up our series right now.
That was the final one in our series. Leave them wanting more, because I bet you don't want no more.
And this is a case where we really wish they had left us wanting more, because more isn't better. But hey, we talked about our little call-in show, and even in general, if you have any comments or questions or ideas, you can get in touch with us in a number of different ways. Well, two, really. One, you can email us directly at us@maxmikemovies.com, which of course suggests that we have a website by that name, which we do. Or you can leave a comment on that said website, because all of our episodes are there for you to listen to over and over and over again, because that's what people want to do. They want to listen to us over and over and over again.
Yep.
Leave a comment on an episode, give us an idea, whatever. That's really cool. But hey, you probably wonder, I've been listening to this episode. How do I find it? Well, you find it by listening to the podcast app of your choice, be it Google, Apple, or Spotify, or iHeartRadio. And we may be other places as well. So there's all of this and all of us just for all of you. But we're starting something different next week.
That's right.
Series. We actually decided on a name. I was going to call it Semi-Real People, but
I was just calling it Biopics.
Oh, I like Semi-Real People, at least, because, it opens the discussion, shall we say. But it's going to be about films that are ostensibly about real, actual, having lived or are still living people. And we're going to look and see how good a job they do. And Max is first up.
Yep.
He's got the bat in his hands. Max, what are you taking a swing at next week?
Your head! Because there can be only me! Wait, okay. That's not it. There could be 4 or 5! No, crap. Anyway, yes, we're going to be taking a look at that classic, legendary American comic and pioneer in the field of comic movies, Mr. Charles Chaplin, in the movie Chaplin.
Who stars in that?
Morton Downey Jr.
Is this the one where he gets the armor, or does that come in Chaplin 2? I don't remember.
Sorry, that's Robert Downey Jr., and this is significantly pre-Iron Man.
Oh. Wait, he did movies before Iron Man?
Yeah, hard to believe, right?
Next thing you're going to tell me Paul McCartney was in a band before Wings.
Okay, Mike and I have to have a little talk.
Why are you picking up the bat? Put the bat down, Max. Please put the bat down.
You're going to learn, Michael. Ah! This has been a co-production of The Voice of Max and The Movie Wrench.